Hey everybody, welcome to Open Source Friday, the show where we talk to maintainers about the apps that they're maintaining. I'm Kadesha, and I'm so happy that you're here with me today. If you're in the audience, I'd love to hear from you about where you're joining from, how your week has been. I am so excited it's Friday, let me tell you. It's been quite the busy week at GitHub, but today we are being joined live with Convex. And Convex is an open source backend that makes building real apps a breeze. We have a jam-packed episode for you today. So let me bring on Nipun. Nope, not this one. Nipun and James to the stage. Hey, y'all.
How's it doing?
Hey, happy to
Good.
be here.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Doing
It's
good.
it's good. You're saying it's Friday, and that's great. After this call, we have our show and tell meeting for the week, where we all get to show each other what we built for the week. So that's our highlight for the week. So we're looking forward to that.
It is the best time of the week.
That's awesome. And I see that there's Raj joining us from San Diego. We have Juan in the house. Thank you for joining. So, let's just get right into it, right? So, tell me first, James, tell me about yourself. Like who are you? What do you do? And how did you kind of get into open source?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my background is, originally I was an academic. I was a database kind of systems researcher. And Nipun and I met at Dropbox. We were there for a long time. And I was the lead for a product to design their storage system there and move Dropbox off of AWS, design a lot of their databases, big infrastructure, etc. So we have a company, Convex. It's in San Francisco here. We're an in-person company, which is fun. We get to hang out together, and basically Convex was. We can talk more about Convex in a second, but the impetus for Convex was all our experiences of what infrastructure looks like at big companies, how people actually build applications at I'm talking at the Airbnbs and the Figmas and these kind of companies. How people really build applications, and the gulf between that and how people have to build it when they're kind of starting apps generally, and whether we can take a lot of those ideas and really kind of make them available to people so they can build stuff fast. And what worked out great was that we originally started out to make it so you could have application developers building things fast. Now it turns out LLMs are really good at writing Convex, like really exceptionally good at writing Convex. We can talk about because the building blocks are nice. But that's my intro, and we could hear more from Nipun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll popcorn it over to Nipun. So, tell me about yourself. What do you do, and how did you get into open source?
My name is Nipun. Like James mentioned, met him at Dropbox over a decade ago now, and I'm an engineer here at Convex now. I kind of got into open source because I kind of like the way I like how teams work together, and I think like the way that you work together with a team when you're at like a company and you're all on the same team together is like pretty different than when you're in a community, an open source community with lots of people from lots of different places. And I just think I find it fascinating, and it's like really cool because the kinds of ways that you get things done are different, and you kind of get amazing results in different kinds of ways in these different environments. And I feel like I have always felt like a good bridge between them.
Nice. So
you can talk about it. I love it.
Yeah, of course. So let's get right into Convex. So tell us about Convex. What does it mean to be what type of data? Like, tell me about Convex.
Reactive database, perhaps?
Yes. What does it mean to be a reactive database? And tell me more about the Convex project. Thank you.
I'll give a real quick pitch on Convex. I won't make it too long, and then people can try it out themselves, right? So Convex is a backend as a service. It's a platform you build applications on, right? And so at the core, it's got a database, and it's got functions, and it's got compute. All right. And the real kind of interesting kind of differentiator thing about Convex is that in Convex, the queries you run are not like a SQL statement. It's a TypeScript function. You can write this full TypeScript functions, type safe. You can ensure that they're correct and tested. And Convex also has a sync protocol attached to it. So if you imagine as a developer of what we'd say a real-time app, just say you're building, I'll give a silly example of like a to-do list application, right? You're the client, you write a query that says, give me all the to-dos that have not been done today. And then you just bind the result of that query to a React component on your app. And Convex will make sure that app re-renders anytime the data on the server changes, right? So it's a real kind of end-to-end sync protocol. Now, people can like read about Convex if they want. I think that a lot of folks are discovering Convex now through this thing called Chef. And Chef, something Nipun worked on also, Chef is our AI code gen tool. It's like Alt or Lovable. It's chef.convex.dev. And the real pitch for Convex, like I said, used to be like, hey, these are really good building blocks. And if you have great building blocks, it's really easy to build applications and things just happen to work out nicely and smoothly and they scale and all that stuff, right? Turns out LLMs do really, really well with good building blocks, right? And so folks can just go to chef.convex.dev and try it out. Just type in something like, I don't know, build me a Slack clone or build me an Instagram clone, and it'll pop out and it'll work and it'll be a full stack application storing data in the cloud. And so I think a lot of folks are discovering Convex through Chef, but Convex itself is the platform underneath.
Amazing. I love that. I'm going to link chef.convex.dev so you all can go ahead and get cooking. So
That's right.
So tell me more. So like, how does Convex achieves this real-time reactivity? Is it using like WebSockets, polling, or something else?
Oh yeah. We could. So Convex is designed to scale. Like the whole intention is not for this to be a toy. The whole intention is you build an app. You can start via Chef or start just using Convex, but you end up with something that's for real companies that really works forever, right? So the idea is that a lot of the complicated parts of application development is data management. Sure, the UI is hard, right? And UI is getting closer and closer to a solved problem with LLMs these days, right? But I think for a lot of apps, the really hard thing is dealing with how to move data from one place to another place, keep it in sync, right? So you don't want to be sitting there polling. You don't want to be doing manual caching or cache invalidation. You don't want to be like having to figure out when data has changed on the server. So in Convex, we have a WebSocket between the client and the server. And yes, we consistently update all the kind of components on your screen if the data changes on the server. I can talk about specifically how that works. It's quite an interesting protocol with like read set, intersection, etc. All that stuff, by the way, is open source. And there's an article called How Convex Works. If people just search for How Convex Works, this describes how all this stuff works. They can look at the source code and they can try it out. I think it's a lot of what went into Convex was just systems ideas from our career, having built really, really large systems. We're talking, I don't know, at Dropbox, we built storage systems that were 3-4 exabytes in size and databases that ran about 4 million transactions per second. So the ideas that work at very large scale, the idea with Convex is to package that up in a way that makes it really fast to build applications.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Like I feel like the dream is that you like close the at like larger companies like your Airbnbs and stuff like this, the ratio of front end to back end developers like over time tends to skew towards back end developers. And I feel like the dream here is that we make that way simpler so that you can just get way further with like full stack knowledge and more product oriented knowledge, like random arcane, like figuring out how to deal with your data and SQL database and transaction isolation and just try to make that less of a thing that you have to think about, especially like not for a while.
Yeah, it's basically trying to commoditize that part of the stack, right? In our ideal world, most people are application developers. They're just building cool stuff. They're not thinking about how to manage their backends.
I'm hopeful the number of software engineers in the world goes way up and the amount of stuff in the backend they need to know about goes down. Like that'd be amazing.
Yes. That'd be amazing. And especially with LLMs being able to not just write code, but to create beautiful interfaces, right? So I think the knowledge for both front end and back end is going to boom. And there's going to be a lot of trust in the models to build for us. So how about we see Convex? I know you have a demo for us, so let's get into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it. So
and Nipun, I can stall for time while you bring that up if you want.
Go for it.
Yes. So Nipun's going to show us the open source Convex, right? So Convex is a hosted platform, but it's open source too. So what he's bringing up now, you can take over now, Nipun.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so you can see over here, this is our repository for Convex backend, and the idea is that when you build an app on Convex, you can. I'll show you an example app. One moment. Yeah, so if you're building an app, this is like a sample app that's like out in production. You can build an application and it'll like, you can have it like control the data that moves around, and then the data goes into a backend, and then in the backend you can see from your dashboard like what is going on with the data. And so I'm going to show off the self-hosted version. So let's get one set up over here. So it's pretty simple. There's just a docker compose up command, and you run it, and it pulls open a backend and a dashboard next to each other. So this will take a moment here. So we have a backend and a dashboard, and then I can generate an admin key for the dashboard, and I can run it. So we'll go over here. And so on the dashboard, I punch in this admin key, and then you can see data, functions, files. So let's actually send an app to this thing. So this is an empty one. There's nothing here yet. We're going to put the tutorial app. So I'm just going to run through this tutorial and get this app running. I've already done it, so I'm going to just get it set up.
Okay, wait. I have a question. So you were just able to spin up that database?
Yep.
That quickly?
Yeah.
Is that what I just saw?
Yep. I got the new admin key and some tech stuff going on. All right. New admin key is in.
You bring up an interesting point, right? Which is, at first, Convex wasn't open source, right?
Mhm.
And I can talk more about our decisions to open source. But when we first open source Convex, it's FSL license, so I guess we opened up the source. People didn't seem to care, and some people cared, but most people didn't care. And the reason was we didn't make it easy to run. And that was like a very interesting learning experience for us. Like just having the source code available didn't seem to be a particularly significant event for anyone, right?
Mhm.
We were like, oh, well, we're doing the right thing. We're making the source available. Everyone should care. But it turned out you have to make things easy as well, right?
Yes.
And so then we did a second initiative, which is what Nipun is showing now. And Nipun actually drove that initiative. To make it so that people can just run this really easily, right? So now there's people out there running like full production apps on Convex, on whether it's on Planet Scale or wherever, like with storing the backend on someone else's cloud or running it on their own service. That was really key for us with the open version of Convex, right? Which is like
That's
not
amazing.
just it's open, but you can just run it, and within how long was that? 1 minute? Have a real
yeah.
So Nipun, before you keep going forward, let's just like take it back a little bit. Yeah. So how are you able to set up this DB?
Yeah, so
it was going a little fast.
Yeah, it's a good call. I was gonna say to follow up on James's point here, like it was like kind of a big learning for us. Like open sourcing the code is like the first part of the journey. Like this code has been out there and people could run it, but I think that in order to like really make it something that like is exciting, you got to like make it kind of easy to work with. Like you want it to be this like kind of 5-second process that I just showed. And so that was something we actually put a lot of work into, like to make it so simple that you can just set it up really quickly. It took some time. And I think that was like the real, like, that's the thing. Like if you're a company and you make a product and you want to make it like really easy to use in a open source, like truly like self-hostable way, like I think making it really easy is rather important. Because then you can kind of try it out, no strings attached. Like you don't feel like you're worried that like it's much easier not be worried about it. Anyway, yeah. Can you ask the question again, Kadesha?
Yes. So let's say I go to Convex, I want to use it. How do I get started using it?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is the repo, which I believe you shared here. And so if you go to this one and scroll down, there's a way to get started with the cloud platform that's listed here, but we're gonna do self-hosting because we want to talk about it. So I click this link to the self-hosting guide, and then this is the way that we kind of go through it. So we'll start here with this stuff, but this is like how you can get in touch with us and how you can get on our Discord, which is like pretty active. You can get lots of help over there too. I'm always in there, so. But there's a bunch of community members too who are always down to help out or chat. So this is the first command, and it kind of gets most of it. So it's docker compose up, and that's what runs here. I can kind of show you the Docker file. So if we look at it, it's pretty simple. It starts a backend that's got this image, it's got a full environment, some ports, and then it starts a dashboard, which is our UI. That's like the admin dashboard to look at the data in your product. So the backend is the thing that you would open up. If you're hosting this for real, you would like open it up to the internet, and your front end client would talk to it. And then the dashboard is something that you kind of keep in the backend, like you keep to manage your deployment. The dashboard, I think, is something magic of Convex in here too. Yeah.
One thing I'll add also is like Convex is a database. Like the database is Convex, but it has to store its data somewhere, right? So if you're running the cloud product, we're storing the data for you. If you're running Convex yourself, you have to store that somewhere, and so you can point the Convex backend at SQLite or Postgres or MySQL. Anything that supports those interfaces, you can use. So you could point this to RDS, or you could store it on Neon, or you could run it on PlanetScale, or nice. A SQLite file on your computer. And I'm guessing, Nipun, what you're showing now is a SQLite file locally on your laptop.
I'm doing a SQLite file like right inside of the container, but all of these setups work pretty well. And if you're going to, well, it depends on how big your app is. If your app's going to be small, SQLite's pretty good. But I think one of these Postgres with one of these services is pretty solid.
Nice.
And like, this is like part of what we mean. Like, you should be able to start with something that, and then as it grows, you can like take it to where you want it to be. Like get the scale, get the wisdom of scale without having to know it all up front.
Yeah. Okay. So once we have that running, what's next?
Let's do Docker Compose up. So yeah, it starts both of these things. Let's go back to the instructions. So you'll see here, it starts the backend and the dashboard. And the dashboard's on, this port over here. So I'll click this link and we end up here. And it asks you for the admin key for the deployment. And the reason this is there is because we want to make sure that you are the one who's administering this if you want to look at the data behind the scenes. So this command here generates an admin key. So we'll just do that. I guess I just did this now. So we'll grab that. I went fast. And we'll put it in here. Cool.
And
so here's the dashboard page. You can see this is what it looks like here. It might be kind of cool to compare it to the cloud product dashboard page to show that's like really kind of the same thing. So in the cloud product, you can have like tons of projects like this. So let me look at an example one. I don't know, nonsense nicknames, whatever this is, some project I made a while ago. You can see here, like, it's pretty similar looking. Like, the only difference is the top bar shows which project you have in the cloud product. So, but everything else is like basically exactly the same. So you're really getting like the full dashboard for a project.
Nice.
One of the things people like when they use Convex is they run an app, like even the tutorial chat app, and they go to the little data tab, which shows the data in your database, and they go and change one of the fields, and then they'll see it. The app will instantaneously update. Like, so because it's a sync protocol, you can go for it.
Let's see if we can do this. Okay, is this visible? All right. So okay, let's try it. We're gonna go to this message. Oh yeah, editing, confirm. Hi there, stream. There goes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Real time in real time. So we have a question here. So is the protocol documented anywhere for use in frameworks without an integration, like in Vanilla.js?
Yeah, absolutely. So Convex is a good fit for React. So we talk about React a lot just because React developers are kind of used to this model because they're used to the idea that when data changes, the component re-renders, right? And so Convex in some respects is React for backend. It's like when the data in the backend changes, the components update. But you can use Convex from kind of almost any platform, any framework. So if you go to the docs.convex.dev, there's a quick starts guide, and you'll see a whole bunch of different frameworks there, including, I think one says script tag, and script tag just lets you just drop in import it, like into JavaScript. We also have the HTTP API. So there are people out there also who are using Convex without any of the reactivity at all. They just want to, use other features of Convex, and so they're just talking to Convex over HTTP.
Nice.
We
nice. I love the flexibility.
Yeah, we end up getting a lot of compliments for our docs. Something about the way we write docs is pretty good. I think it's because we got humans writing them.
They're human written docs. Yeah,
They're
I think you can
human-written
tell.
docs.
Yeah.
Human written docs. Can you believe we have to say stuff like that?
I know.
So what does Convex's auth flow look like, and how is session management handled?
You want to take that one, James?
Yeah, can you repeat that? How does auth look like?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Convex has built-in auth. And so what we've found, so the idea with Convex is it's kind of like one-stop shop. So you can just get off the ground and running really fast with everything you need in the back end. And for many developers, auth is actually the most annoying part of building an app. Especially, I would say probably the most annoying thing is managing your data, but Convex solves that problem. So then the next annoying thing is auth, and so we have a built-in auth product ready to go, and it's a proper auth provider. You can have anonymous sessions, you can have password auth, you can have third-party logins, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people, though, some bigger customers do use, say, Clerk or WorkOS, etc., with Convex, and we're totally cool with that. So the idea with Convex auth is really to give you something pretty functional that you can use for most projects. But if you grow out of it and then you want to have SAML support or SSO because you're a multi-billion-dollar company, sure, then drop in your favorite auth provider. Interestingly, we added auth just because a lot of customers were having that problem. Then when we built Chef, it was just so critical because every app in Chef. Actually, do you want to bring up Chef?
Yeah, let me bring up Chef.
Every app in every app in Chef has auth by default. Because every app in Chef is intended to be deployed on the cloud as a real multiplayer application. So like Chef's, you could ask Chef to build you just like a silly little game or something. But the main point is that it's a real like Slack clone or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the default Slack clone so you can see all of this description. Just send it to make one. As a small aside, I kind of find it fascinating. The kinds of prompts that make good apps are really kind of deep. Like they have some like engineering leadership energy in them. Like build an app similar to this, and then it has like a lot of like description on what to do. And it kind of reminds me that like, working with an LLM is kind of like working with another engineer in a lot of ways. Makes sense.
Yes.
They're trained on people, behave like people. And so I think like I'll call it like leadership energy, like have like some tech lead energy in your descriptions like this.
It's true. It's almost like we have to learn how to be product managers in a way where we're like writing out that like the issue that we write out and how detailed it has to be and how broken down it has to be so that the engineers can implement the feature, but so that the LLM can implement the feature. So it's kind of like a brain shift for us. And I saw someone, Theo, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but you asked the question that I was just about to ask actually, which is, so he says, hi, James, what are the main differences between Convex's data model and something like Firebase or Superbase? I was actually just wondering, like, is Convex similar to Superbase or like, what's the differentiator there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll talk about both. So interestingly, Superbase originally was built as a Firebase clone or the open source Firebase. That was their original marketing. They're quite different products right now, right? So I'll talk about them both separately. So Firebase, I have massive respect for Firebase as like being a very innovative product, like bringing the industry forward. But Firebase, I don't consider like a real production database in many respects, insofar as it doesn't have relations. It doesn't have, it's pretty hard to write real transactions. You don't have easy to use schemas, right? So Firebase is really ergonomic and for small applications. A lot of folks find they grow out of Firebase when they no longer want to have, for example, a hierarchical document model. So we'll put Firebase aside. Superbase is obviously really hot right now. Superbase, in many respects, is a Postgres wrapper, right? Superbase is Postgres.
I think so.
So the differences is one is like you're writing your queries in SQL, but the very, very big fundamental model between these two is by default, the interaction model for Superbase and Firebase is you have a client, so your website. It has queries inside of it. and it's talking directly to the tables in the database, right? So you might be querying a collection in Firebase, or you might be writing a SQL query to a table in Supabase, and you're using row level security to try to protect your data, etc. So basically, the interface for Firebase and Supabase is between like a client running all the code and the server as the database primarily, right? In Convex, this is quite different. Convex looks far more like an RPC server, right? So in Convex, your functions run on the cloud. So generally, you're writing these transactions, and maybe Nipun can bring one up. In Convex, you're writing transactions that run directly on your data transactionally in the cloud. So you can write like a multi-step program that's reading some data and doing some computation and writing data back. That's running right atomically as a transaction, and it's running in the cloud in some kind of secure environment. You don't have to worry about like row level security. You can just write your code as code. And so the real big fundamental difference is this architectural difference, right? Whereas Convex is really more like in some respects, a more traditional model, right? Where the client is the UI and the server is running kind of RPCs against the database. It's just a much more modern take on that. Whereas the Supabase Firebase model kind of pushes a lot more logic to the client. And I think that entails a lot of challenges and problems for production applications. But that's the difference. That's the high level difference in these three.
Nice.
Yeah, like I want to pay like a lot of respect to those two, because the like idea of pushing logic to the client comes from this like really important place of like, we want to make it very easy for the front end developer to build the thing that they want to build. And I think it is like it's part of what made Convex challenging to build, is that we want to change the abstraction between to make it so that we embrace this like wanting to give power to the front end product developer, while also letting you get all the benefits of having like a standard backend stack where you have things running inside of the backend. Stored procedures inside the database are incredible. So many things just become way easier when your code is running right next to the database. You can write.
The whole point. The whole point, you have to think about how things interact with each other, right? So the idea, and this actually helps a lot with LLMs, right, is when you're writing code, you don't have to think about what happens if I'm adding a new user and setting their email and doing this thing at the same time as someone else is doing something, right? You're writing these self-contained functions that run as transactions, and they run in optimistic concurrency control with multi-version concurrency control and all the database stuff in serializability. And the whole point at the end of the day is you as a developer, just think about the feature you're building right now. You don't have to reason about anything else. And that's why LLMs produce really excellent programs on Convex, is they can just focus on local reasoning. I'm adding this new feature. I'm adding a part to the Slack app where I can change my profile information. You don't have to worry about what happens when someone's simultaneously renaming.
Like even code this simple is just challenging without like a nice transaction model. Like if existing this, otherwise do this insert.
So essentially Convex is much more than a backend. Then it's much more than a database.
It's much more than a database.
If it's also able to, build UI applications. I didn't realize this initially, that it's also able to build front end and, connect it to the database. So let's, is that accurate? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, so, as what Nipun's showing right now with Chef apps is that, you can click the deploy button and you have your entire company basically running right there, right? Most folks who are using Convex are hosting their front end like HTML on something like Netlify or Vercel, or Cloudflare or wherever. The Convex is certainly more than a database or more than a backend. It's a big part of it is the sync protocol, right? So it's basically taking the data and connecting it to your client. And also there's a bunch of other features like vector search and full text search and scheduling is a big one. A lot of people leverage scheduling very heavily. So, that's how you build like kind of business flows. Like a new user joins and then you say, cool, in 10 minutes, go and do that. And you can just schedule it kind of like you would with Temporal, run these kind of durable scheduled jobs in the back end.
Awesome. So I have a few questions about authentication coming in. So let's take it back to authentication on Convex specifically. So can you walk us through how Convex manages auth and authorization for different users?
Yeah.
So I think there might be, because it depends on what this question is like getting at, right? So Nipun in a second can kind of show us the auth tables in shows the auth tables in and how auth works. But I will also, just in case the question's about this contrast between row level security and access controls and how Convex handles auth. Right. So in Convex, you actually can do row level security if you want. You can just search for Convex RLS, and there's a whole article on how to do this. That's typically not how any established company manages their security rules. Because in general, there's not normal. You have a whole bunch of data in your databases, and you have probably hundreds of tables. And there's not necessarily a direct one-to-one mapping between a user ID and exactly which tables they can read. Right. So generally, whenever you want to authenticate an operation might be like list files that I have access to, or it might be change my profile photo, etc. Right. You just have a function call that says like, can I do this? And this function might take a whole bunch of logic into consideration. Because Convex is a programming language, it's just TypeScript. Typically, when you want to handle authorization, you just do it in code, like you would in any program. And so when you're writing Convex, you just think about it, how would you write this locally? Oh, you do it the same way.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Is the port for Angular coming soon with Convex?
Oh, I wonder if we already have one out there. So Convex, like the primary client binding we wrote was the React one, right? But Convex is a great fit for Vue, Angular, Svelte, Solid, right? And so as enthusiasm has kind of shown up for these, we've either built them ourselves or people in the community have added them. So I think this, because I was just looking at the quick starts page in our docs. Angular's not listed, but I saw that Svelte is listed, and I think Solid's listed too. And I believe these have just come in from community contributions. You might know this. But...
Nice.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So the answer is we're not immediately writing our own Angular one, but if someone in the community wants to contribute a client library for Angular, that would be dope, and we'd love to host it and put energy behind it.
Yeah, we have a full. Actually, I can show this, but yeah, we have a full Convex JS WebSocket implementation, and you can build anything around it. And there's a React client in here. In here, there's a React client, but you can build kind of with other things around here too. And the other one is we have a Convex RS, which is a Rust full implementation of WebSocket, and this kind of lets you get into all the other languages. So Python builds around this, and then there have been community contributions that someone did C# the other day.
Nice.
So
awesome. So if you want to see Angular support, go forth and contribute.
Yeah, go build it.
Go forth and contribute.
It's always awesome when we have quite a few clients there, right? I mean, and Nipun wrote the probably a lot of these actually, but the Python one.
Yeah.
If someone wants to add something, they'd love it.
Yeah.
Me and one of our wrote the Rust one. It's pretty good.
We did have a comment about the script tag for the vanilla JavaScript. So I think someone went to your docs and they were probably looking to use the vanilla JS implementation, but they didn't know that the script tag meant vanilla JS, because other frameworks also use a script tag. So I think it would probably be better to just call it what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm writing this down right now.
Yeah. So another question I have is, so with Convex, it encourages developers to write pretty much like backend logic in TypeScript. I'm curious what benefits that bring about, or why was that the choice?
Yeah, so there's a few questions. One would be why TypeScript, and two, why allow people to write backend code, right? So the idea is, if we go back a little bit historically, right, there's been front-end developers and back-end developers, and they've owned different parts of the stack, right? And as a result, it's been difficult for a front-end developer to own the whole stack, because either you have a back-end person who writes the Go code on the back-end for the RPCs, and you ask them to add APIs for you, or you use GraphQL, which a lot of people have run into problems since then. It's kind of difficult to work with in many respects in a growing application, or you start moving that logic to the client when I would say it shouldn't be there, right? Business logic generally belongs on the server next to the data, so business logic can execute transactionally against that data. That's just the right way to architect applications, and it's kind of borne out by the laws of physics. Like there is just speed of light time between the client and the server, right? You just can't no one's holding a transaction open between like my laptop and a server in Google's data centers. It just doesn't happen, right? So we want to allow front-end or full-stack application developers to build the entire application. And as a result, we have to make it so that the application developers can write APIs. And so it makes a lot of sense to write this in TypeScript, right? Because the rest of the application is the rest of your web app is likely in TypeScript or JavaScript, right? So why not build the backend stuff in TypeScript too? Now, there's other benefits, right? You can reuse so much of that same code between these two environments, right? So it all sits in your one source tree. With the Convex folder with your Convex functions, you can jump to definition. You get autocomplete in your text editor, and if you get really nerdy, TypeScript helps us out in a few ways because when we run the transaction, we run it inside a V8 isolate that and we can determinize it, and we can talk about all those deep technical details. But the real choice for TypeScript is that at the end of the day, we want to empower full stack developers to write the whole application and not to contort themselves into a weird development model because they can't write the API server or they're not allowed to, or there's a different language. We want to just say, hey, full stack developer, write the whole thing. And that's
amazing.
If you've ever worked at a company with more than like 30 people or something, you've probably felt this before. Like I remember working both on client teams and server teams, and I always felt like I was a bit of a glue person because there's a tendency to be like, hey, can you take care of this for us? And then they're like, let me do it after I do something else. And then it gets in there 4 days later. And just, if you can do it all yourself, it helps so much. Yeah.
And I guess along the same lines, I saw a question about function reusability. So essentially, I believe they're asking, does Convex support composing functions or importing shared logic between queries and mutations?
Yes, absolutely. So in Convex, there's these three core primitives, right? There's queries, mutations, and actions. Right? And a query is is a deterministic, no side effect transaction that just reads data in a transaction, and queries are what you subscribe to and what gets updated over the WebSocket. Mutations update data that and then the actions that is general purpose compute. You can think of an action like a Lambda. Actions can do all the kind of dirty work, talk to the outside world and leak state and do all that kind of stuff. So these are just entry points into your program, right? They can call other functions, right? So you have Nipun's showing it right here, right? Here's a query, and it's just running some TypeScript. Now that could call another function. Yep. You can have and typically what happens in an evolving product is you have a whole bunch of functions that compose all your application together, and then you just link them together into an entry point, which is a query or a mutation.
Nice. You guys really put a lot of thought into Convex. I love it.
Yeah, gotta thank the TypeScript community for building it for this too. Yeah.
Honestly,
you can just do all the stuff that we have decades of experience with. We as an industry have experience with TypeScript with.
Honestly, okay. Another question. Really enjoying this presentation. You're welcome. So last question that he has is, are there any audit logs or monitoring tools integrated with Convex for debugging or compliance? And if there are not, is it easy to integrate those?
Yeah, so Nipun's showing them right now. So this is a good question because both Nipun and I have dealt with compliance a lot in our careers and work with auditors and all that kind of stuff at other companies. Convex has SOC 2 and HIPAA and GDPR and all the stuff you need to be accredited for stuff.
Nice.
There's the built-in logs that Nipun's showing right now in the free product. I think there's some basic audit logs in the free product as well, and there's also like a paid product with you can sign the SOC 2 contract and all that kind of stuff. I will say that sometimes people want, and there's also the health page. If you go up to that, that kind of shows the health of your application, and you can dig in. It gives you suggestions like, hey, maybe you should add an index over here. This query is running slowly. Now, there is a whole other level of kind of analytics. Some like bigger customers want to be doing some like big data number crunching on their data and doing alerts and all those kinds of things. And in those cases, they typically stream that data out to some
we
other
have
service.
like we can stream it out to like Fivetran or Airbyte if you want to get it to some custom service, or you can stream directly to our favorites are Axiom, Datadog, also good. Like you can get a lot of like nice analytics and dashboards and just see what's going on.
Nice.
So I should say that the one thing that's it's missing, I guess, from Convex is not like an analytics product, right? Convex is a platform for building your like production application. So we do plan on adding this some kind of version of this built in, but we haven't done it yet.
So there's room for another tab here.
Yeah. So if you want to do like proper analytics and build dashboards and all that kind of stuff beyond what we have built in, people just stream that data out to another service and then use it.
Awesome. And can Convex be used with ORM like Prisma and Type ORM?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I think if you use Convex, you might not ask that question, right? Because at the end of the day, Convex is a very high level abstraction, right? So Convex, you already get it will feel like you're using Prisma, right? So you start typing and you field auto completes and you get it's the same experience as using something like Prisma or a very powerful ORM, but it's actually type safe. Like it really is the types in your database. It's not some kind of mapping between whatever's in SQL. So there is a key difference. People aren't writing SQL queries in Convex, right? They're writing code that talks to the database.
Somebody somewhat recently, I want to say, made an issue where they built Convex to Prisma translation layer because they needed one. It was kind of cool.
Oh.
Let me see if I can find it. It was, here we go. Was it this?
There we go. All right. The answer is yes.
Someone's here. It might have been pull request too.
Nice.
Yeah. Prisma. Yeah, I'll find it after, but I'm pretty sure
Nice.
I saw this kind of recently. It was very cool.
Cool.
I guess while I'm here, I can point out, we get lots of PRs. I love getting PRs. I feel like as a company, we've had this evolving view towards PRs because I think in some sense, the PRs we found has given our product a lot of polish. Our docs get better, small errors in the things improve. If there's something that's confusing, people will go make it less confusing. If there's a little bug, people fix the bugs. We would probably be more hesitant to doing if you want to replace V8 with Spider Monkey. It's a very major thing. We probably want to talk a little bit and maybe we should pay you or something and we work together on it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the things we actually get in practice are these really cool PRs where people do little things to help. Somebody added R2 support, where R2 is Cloudflare's alternative to S3, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Nice. I think that's one of the things we at GitHub love about the open source community. It's just when everyone comes together on a project, it's just beautiful, and the project becomes so much more wholesome and full featured.
Yeah.
Another question we have is
fix this. We'll take it. DigitalOcean object parts missing hash.
Does Chef or Convex have an MCP?
Yes, it does. It does. We were right. Got the answers for the question. Convex has an MCP. There's something missing from an MCP that I would love to add next week if we can. And so in the Convex MCP server, you can go and kind of ask for what tables are there and what the schema is and all these kinds of things, right? But there's a really cool prototype we have, which we just haven't published yet, which is you can ask Convex to profile your functions in the MCP server. So you could, for example, be in your editor in Cursor, you write a Convex function, and then you can say to the MCP server, hey, run this and tell me how many rows it reads, provided, it's read only and runs in a sandbox, right? And so we can come back with kind of almost like pprof output kind of thing to send back to the LLM, and then it can go and make changes to the code. So I think this is super cool to have say you're using an LLM to write your Convex functions on your client, but instead of relying on a query plan or something, you could just literally ask the service, does this run well? So I don't know, in a couple of weeks, we'll probably have that out.
Awesome. And I would personally love to see some setup instructions for VS Code and, GitHub Copilot.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll get in there. That's very
working with
doable.
Convex too. Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
that'll be cool.
that's great. Let's do it. Oh yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I should
We'll
So yeah, awesome. So the MCP server is coming soon for Convex. That's amazing. This has been really, really eye-opening. I have one more question, and if you have any last-minute questions, let me know as we wrap up. So does Convex support edge computing or any serverless runtime features or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of opinions on this because I used to be this kind of systems guy. I used to design all this stuff. So the idea is when you use Convex, you should not have to think about this stuff, right? So ideally, you use Convex. We handle caching for you. We make it fast for you. We handle sync for you. So the ideal with Convex is not that you have to go and kind of deploy a mirror of your database close to your users so it works. That's on us, right? So that side is just handled by the platform. We can do caching for the user on their behalf. You can run general purpose compute on Convex, so you can run, like I said, actions. People run a lot of stuff. People use actions a lot for talking to LLMs and stuff. So you want to do a call to OpenAI or something. That's a lot, oftentimes running in actions. And then sure, if you want to run some code on other providers, that's fine with us too. Like for example, someone came and did a PR to add support for R2, the storage, instead of Convex storage, and we took that. That's great. I mean, I don't think we want to have a monopoly on the services you can use. We just want to make it sure that we have, when it comes to managing your data, it's kind of within the Convex platform and it's really seamless.
Yeah, love that.
People made Svelte, people made C# client. Honestly, use Chef if you like Chef. Use any other one if you like those.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so sorry. Does the runtime support WASM? WASM? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's almost a secret. But yes. So I don't think it's documented anywhere. It is. You could run WASM code, and there is at least one app I know of that's running Go. In a Convex function.
Someone actually did say they would love to see Go support.
Yeah, I think there's a geospatial indexing component. I think that has a Go library inside of it, and that is running in a Convex function. So it is WASM, but we just talk about JavaScript and TypeScript.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So any last words for our viewers? And
screen so that our faces can be big.
Huh? Oh yeah.
Last words? No, I mean, look, try it out. We'd love to have your feedback. Like I said, it took us a while to figure out how to get better at kind of open source, right? At first it was closed, and then we're like, no, we want people owning this thing, so we opened it, and then we made it so it's easy to run. We'd love to have you using this thing. We'd love to have you running production apps, and we'd love to have you PRs, and Nipun would probably be getting the PRs, and he'll probably be responding to you.
I respond to all of them.
Do you want to comment?
Literally all of them, but I love being on there. Yeah,
he's our best open source contributor, so if you want to message from him, send us a PR.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been one. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say everyone at Convex is great. One of my favorite teams. So. Yeah.
That's good. What makes it your favorite team? What is so good about the team?
I'm gonna steal a quote from someone else, but sometimes it kind of feels like Ocean's 11. Everybody's got their own kind of magical skill, and it takes a while to gel, but over the years, we've worked on this for years, we just kind of know who's going to be good at what, and we can make amazing things happen kind of fast. It's cool.
That's awesome. And in the age of AI, speed and accuracy is everything, because things are moving so fast. It's been wonderful having you, James and Nipun, on Open Source Friday. If you're not a part of the maintainer community, we'd love to have you be a part of the GitHub maintainer community. May is Maintainer Month, and I know we have a lot of goodies going on right now for maintainers. And such. And thank you all for watching and tuning in again for Open Source Friday. I'm Kadesha, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
you.